My name's David Burns. I'm a paramedic and I work with a private paramedicine company by the name of LifeAid. We provide services in all sorts of spaces, non-traditional ambulance spaces across the state of Victoria in Australia and parts of Queensland. I started my career as a registered nurse and moved on to study critical care nursing, worked in that area specialising particularly in liver transplants, in intensive care phases for patients and in cardiovascular surgery. I then also worked as a rescue crew on a rescue helicopter and developed a passion for the out-of-hospital space of healthcare and went on to do my paramedic training after working with paramedics in that space. I then went on and did critical care paramedicine and flight paramedicine and worked in those spaces for a number of years, both as a crewed response and a single responder in Victoria in Australia, Queensland, Australia, Western Australia in Australia and in the United Kingdom for a couple of years, including some consultancy on alternative care pathways for patients to try and address some of the issues of crowding in hospitals and to find points of deposition for patients, not in emergency departments but in a more bespoke focused area for their care. And following that I moved around the private paramedicine space a bit and came across an old friend who for 35 years had been running a private paramedicine service called LifeAid, and Alan Close, the Managing Director and owner of that company, invited me to come and do some work during a 16-week bushfire period, devastating period in southern Australia been fondly named as Black Saturday now, and worked for a number of weeks with him in that space and developed quite a passion for the community space of paramedicine and the primary care space of paramedicine, and joined his company about 18 months ago to work with him and his team in helping deliver these alternative paramedic services across the country. The research we've presented, or the poster research presentation we've presented here at the Australasian College of Paramedicine International Conference, has been focused on the care of firefighters in long campaign bushfire periods. And specifically we've focused on foot care, which might not seem all that important on the surface, but what we've realised over a number of years now is the criticality of having firefighters fit through having good foot care, both through education, prevention and, if required, acute management of blisters particularly. During the period of the bushfires in 2019-20, where there was a great deal of the state on fire, we had over a 16-week period over 10,000 patients present as firefighters for care to us, with just under 50% of those requiring care for their feet. The reason we focus so critically on that is if we step back and look at the effects of having feet that aren't fit for work, if you like, is that we remove firefighters, or what we call bench them, for a period of days, and that could be up to 10 days where they are not able to attend on a fire appliance. Therefore, if we have a number of firefighters drop off the firefighting appliances, we reduce the capacity to protect communities, critical assets, critical infrastructure, rural fencing, food, stored food for animals, water pumping systems, community infrastructure, and in fact protect the fabric of small rural communities where these bushfires normally occur. So for something that might seem trivial on the surface, that is blisters on the feet of firefighters, we've identified over a number of years the immeasurable economic benefit to having a high degree of focus on foot care and general health, mind you, of the firefighters in these campaign fires, to ensure that communities recover well, communities are protected well, and people return home safe every day after work. Look, it's a deep passion, and I suppose, like many in the industry, it comes from family values, from life values, and from seeing my father as quite a leader in so many ways. That leadership took me into areas of surf lifesaving particularly early, and I need to give a nod to a couple of mentors that have driven my passion, and that is the Managing Director, Alan Close, of the company I now work for, LifeAid Proprietary Limited, Ian Patrick and Tony Hucker, who was a clinical guide and mentor, particularly through my critical care training. And whilst there's many others, I really do need to point those two out. So the passion was seen from those people practicing beyond their scope and towards the top of their scope of potential practice, pushing boundaries and lobbying and agitating to ensure that paramedics were seen and are seen in Australia and New Zealand as a genuine part of the health fabric and the plexus that is healthcare. And we're not simply seen any longer as working with ambulance services. There's a significant difference. I personally see that there are ambulance services and paramedic services, and the two are quite different. Ambulance services traditionally in this country, in Australia, are funded by government and focus on emergency response. However, there's a huge area, particularly in rural areas, in disaster response and recovery, construction, mining, industry, sporting events, etc., that is filled by private paramedicine services, which allows emergency paramedicine services to get on with their job, to focus on what they do well, and not be drawn out of their primary remit of emergency response to communities in need. Well, I'm sort of known as a bit of a water baby. I love my surfing, I love my ocean swimming. But my big focus at the moment is mountain biking. I've, over the last 15 years, found quite a passion for downhill mountain biking and actively involved in a mountain biking club, the Yuyangs, in outer Melbourne, I suppose, and rural Melbourne. It's a granite outcrop that stands alone on a plain, and that granite is very hard and very firm. So I find myself not only enjoying my mountain biking there and pushing myself to the limits, but having my paramedic skills called on quite often for persons that aren't quite staying vertical on their bike from time to time. So absolutely love it, love keeping fit, love eating well, and I love my combi van. I love camping in my combi van, so I can combine the bike riding with that, and food. Food and coffee. Being from Melbourne in Australia, if I didn't include coffee, they would probably extradite me or export me to somewhere else.